Okay, thank you, God. We're still here. We're doing our biblical word study, one word at a time, one verse at a time. And we're going with this, we're going with fear and terror. Let me just pick up this real quick. So, yeah, as you can see, look at all the TWOTs on terror, and look at all the TWOTs on fear. And we're going to pop in and out and see what we can get, because some of them match up. As you can see, there's to TWOT 332 over there. There's a TWOT 332 over there. So fear and terror, same thing. And we're going to be jumping around with this one here. So, but for right now, I'm just going to give you a whole bunch of definitions to start us off. And we're going to get into the fear and terror, because as we know, God is a terrorist. I like to joke about that. I think Jim did a message on that once, but I remember him mentioning that God is a terrorist. And I wrote down a whole bunch of verses, and I'm sure that we're going to run into them through this study here. But just let me, like I said, I'll give you a bunch of numbers here. 928 is this terror, and also 926. We'll look at both of them. One's the noun and one's the verb, I guess. This would be the feminine noun, behala. Means trouble or terror. It's only like 4 verses, as you can see. And then the 926 would be the verb, and that's trouble. And bahal, trouble. And if we look at the TWOT real quick, maybe I should just give you the words without looking at the TWOT, because then we'll start reading that, and we'll get bogged down with just studying this one word. Sudden terror, alarm, but yeah, we'll get into all of this stuff down the road, but I just want to give it the definitions right now. But as you can see, it's in the TWOT 207 if you're taking notes and you want to write it down. So that, and this other one here, some of them are really not worthy of our study tonight, but they are words that we might run into. 2851 is terror. 2851 Kittieth, and there's a whole bunch of words here, as you can see. TWOT 784 A B C D E F. So there's like 5 or 6 different ones here, but this main one here, that's not the main one. 2865 is, that's the verb there. That's katath or kathat. That means to be dismayed, to be afraid, to break in pieces, to break down. And there's a bunch of others. 2847. And they journeyed, and the terror of God, see, I told you God is a terrorist, was upon the cities that were round about him, and they did not pursue after the sons of Jacob. So that's good. So that's the kita. As you can see, the words are probably spelled the same. They got different vowel endings and things like that. So that's terror. And we're going to look at, let me just put this up real quick, get the rest of these out of here. And we'll give you a bird's eye view of TWOT 784. As you can see, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 10 different versions of this. And then you got mahita, which is down there, to be broken. Let me see, panic, to be dismayed, to be demoralized. Ephraim is shattered, meaning to fear, fearing, you terrified me, dread, hata, calamity. I mean, I'm putting these pages up here, so if you are looking at it later on, these pages, you can hit the pause button and just read this stuff. So terror. You see fears of old age, terror, mahita. Good. Good. So that's that. And then there's this is another big one here, which would be akin to Yare. This is Pakad. We just looked at it. 6342 and 6343. 43. Pakad. Pakad, that's the verb. Fear. I was wondered why Mike had his address was Pakad. Now I know why. Fear, afraid, to fear, tremble. And that's the verb. And then you have this one here, which would be the masculine noun. Pakad, it's the same thing. Fear, terror, dread. 1756 is the TWOT. All right, throwing these at you real quick. So if you're writing them down, fine. If not, look at it later and you can see the recording and you can stop and pause and look at this. Fear, tremble, pakad, dread, fear, religious awe. And that's the yare. It also is religious awe, reverence. When it talks about reverend is his name, fear is his name. Serves as a strong verb of fearing. All right, refers to strong emotion of fear. Some context, particulars of pakad seem less in mind than the desire to use an appropriate synonym in a poetic context. Pakad use refer to the emotion of fear. Thus, unlike yara or yare, it is not used for the abstract intellectual apprehension of evil that may refer to awe or reverence. And Psalms 119, 161, princes have persecuted me without cause, but my heart standeth in awe of thy word, pakad, of thy word. I don't want to get stuck in all these TWOTs because we could spend all night doing all of these TWOTs. It's gonna be all night just giving you these definitions, besides going into the TWOTs here. But I just wanted to zip through real quick. Dread, fear, terror. They refer either to a strong emotion of fear or terror or to the external person or the thing arousing fear. So there's a lot here on this pakad, as you can see. But we'll get into this down the road here. See if there's anything. Oh, TDNT 9. So this would be TDNT 9. This would be the word phobeo or phobos. So that's covered in the bibliography there. And this one, pakad, is a stone, occurs once in the physical description of the behemoth. Well, that's interesting. Job 40:17. He moveth his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his stones are wrapped together. The sinews of his stones. So that's one time in the Bible. Pakad. The sinews of his pakad. It's a masculine noun. It's thigh. All right, are wrapped together. And that's when they're talking about the behemoth, the Leviathan, whatever you want to call it. And then we have another main one here. Well, let me slip into this other one here. 367, and 366. So that, and this would be horror.
I'm about to turn off the game, John.
Turn off my video, right? Good. Yeah, I just look funny, just zipping and looking all over the place. Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye. Okay. Thanks for that, Alex. I don't like having my face up there. All right. Yeah. Ema. 366. Terrible. Terrors. And 366 is a moan, a yum. So a ma and a yum. Terrible. And it's TWOT 80. And we'll look at that real quick. All right. That's a short one, right? Terrible dread is their occurrences in Song of Solomon. Thou art beautiful, my love, as Tirzah, comely as Jerusalem, terrible as an army with banners. Terrible as an army with banners. Ayom. And who is she that looketh forth as the morning, fair as the moon, clear as the sun, and terrible as an army with banners? The same thing. Habakkuk 1:7, they are terrible. And here's the other word, dreadful. And we'll look at this right after this. Yare, that's the fear. They are terrible, dreadful. Their judgment and their dignity shall proceed of themselves. Whatever he's talking about there, I don't know. We'll figure it out. So that's that one. And then you got the Yare, 3372. 72. Yare, afraid. 907 actually is the TWOT for this. And is there another Strong's number here? Yeah. 33, actually there's a bunch of them. 33, 72, 73, and 74. Let me throw them up here. 32, 72, 73, 73. That's Fierist, and 74. 33, 74. So you got 73 is Yare. Fear, afraid, fearful, 64 times in the Bible. And this 3374 is Yerah, the fear, exceedingly dreadful, fear, terror. And what was the one? 41. Yeah, 4172 is the 4172. There's usually an M. Fear of you. Mora, fear, reverence, terror. So you got 4 at least right here. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast and every fowl. Speaking of man, our fear will be on them. Great terrors, according to all that the Lord God did for you in Egypt before your eyes. That was terrible, the 10 plagues, right? There shall no man be able to stand before you, for the Lord your God shall lay the fear of you and the dread of you. And this fear of you is the pakad. Yep. The dread of you upon all the land that you shall tread upon, as he had said. And we can't go through all. There's 12 verses here. There's 45 verses here. There's 63 verses here. There's 305 verses for this main one here. This verb, yare. And also, and that would be covered under TWOT, TWOT 907. What's this? 908 is probably a short thing here. 908 to shoot out. Okay. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different words here. Terror. And you can see there's a lot of stuff here. I'm just going to zip through this real quick. This way you'll have it up here if you want to go and look at it later. A lot of different words here. Fearing, form of religious worship. Fearing seems to mean being a devotee or a follower. Okay. I fear a great deal. To make to fear, to be feared. Good example, to fear, to beg. And then the discussion of Yare is complicated, but I need to distinguish between those examples which are genuinely substantive and therefore discussed in this section. Okay, God-fearer, clearly substantival. Got to look that one up. Substantival. Examples which show fear and emotion or an anticipation of evil are found. More frequently, emphasis is upon awe or reverence rather than terror. I like that. And that's praise ye the Lord. Blessed be the man that feareth the Lord, that delighteth greatly in his commandments. Psalms 112 and 1 and Ecclesiastes 8 and 12. Though a sinner do evil 100 times and his days be prolonged, yet surely I know that it should be well with them that fear God, which fear before him. Fear God, Yare, which fear before him. Yare, Yara. That's that. And of course, you know, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. That's probably, I haven't looked at that. That's 28:28, Job 28:28. And all the days I spent looking at fear and terror, I haven't run across that yet. The God-fearer, I'm just going through this real quick. See if there's anything. Those who fear God, parallel sons of Jacob, sons of Israel on the one hand, that's Psalms 22. And Mora, fear, terrible, terribleness. Like there's a lot here, a lot of pages. Okay. Don't even have Phobos in here. You believe that? For the bibliography, you think they would have TDNT 9 in there, but they don't. Okay, so that's that. And I want to look at Job 28:28 real quick because I haven't seen that. And that's probably Yare. Just want to double check. 28:28, because that's the one I always go to when I'm talking about fear of the Lord. 28:28. Unto many said, about the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom. Yeah, Yare. Or Yera. Okay, fear. Exceedingly to terror, fear. Okay. So, and to depart from evil is understanding. So if you want wisdom and understanding, fear God and don't sin. Simple as that, right? Yare. And then we have 40, looks like 46:37, if I can read my writing here. 46:37. Terror, one time in the Bible. Maratzah is a terror, and it's 6206. Is arat, afraid, fear, dread, terribly, break, to tremble, fear, oppress, prevail. Isaiah 10:33, behold, the Lord of hosts, shall lop the bough with terror, and the high ones of stature shall be hewn down, and the haughty shall be humble. That's it. All right. And that's TWOT 1702. This is Maratzah, terror. TWOT 1702. Look at that real quick. I don't think I looked at this yet. Yeah, the verb aras denotes fear and terror, transitively to cause terror, intransitively to be terrified. Okay. So by context, you know what transitively and intransitively means. To come upon suddenly, violently, to quiver, to flicker. Yare is a synonym. Pakad is a synonym we just looked at. And gur, I don't think we looked at gur yet. Gur. It's on my list, I'm sure. It's got to be down there somewhere. Gur, to be afraid. Yagur, sa'a, to bristle with hara, hatat. All of these words I probably have on my list. To cause it to tremble, to terrify. An example with Yahweh as the subject, Isaiah 2:19 and 21. And they shall go into the holes of the rocks, into the caves of the earth, for fear of the Lord and for the glory of his majesty when he arises to shake terribly the earth. And let's put it in context. And then 20 and 21. And that day a man shall cast his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which they had made, each one for himself, to worship, to the moles and to the bats. So everything you got, we're all saving up money. We got our money so in the banks or in our drawers, and we're going to be casting these things to the moles and to the bats. To go into the clefts of the rocks and into the tops of the ragged rocks for fear of the Lord and for the glory of his majesty when he arises to shake terribly the earth. So the 19 and 21 are basically the same exact verse. When he arises for the fear of the Lord, so for the pakad of the Lord, when he arises to shake terribly, or rats, excuse me. Shake terribly the earth, as you can see, and you'll have 2, 3, sometimes three of these synonymous words in a verse, and we're going to run across all of them. And I'm throwing them at you real quick. That's good. Like I said, I don't want to get caught up going into all these TWOT readings here, but sometimes you run into some good stuff here. Subject to the irony is 6 times to tremble, to be afraid. In 5 instances, those trusting in the might of Yahweh are commanded not to tremble, for Yahweh, the great and awesome one, is in their midst. So he's telling them not to be afraid. In these verses here, Deuteronomy 1:29, 7:21, don't be afraid, 20 and 3. All right, faint not, don't be terrified. Okay, Deuteronomy 31:6, and this is before they go into the land. Be strong, be of good courage, fear not, nor be afraid of them. All right, and then Joshua 1, he tells them the same thing. Have not I commanded thee? Be strong, good courage, be not afraid. So we could look up those words, and they'll all be the same. fear-wise. And these passages, there are aras is associated with the synonyms yareh, pakad, and hatat. And we know what they are already. We just looked at them. All right. A God greatly feared in the council of the holy ones. And Yahweh is held to be in reverential awe. Fearing him, one need fear no other. And that's good. Isaiah 8, 12, and 13, say ye not a confederacy to all them to whom there is people shall say a confederacy, neither fear ye their fear, nor be afraid. So don't yareh their morah, and be not afraid. Arats. So you got Yare, Mara, and Arats right next to each other. Sanctify the Lord of hosts himself, and let him be your fear, your Morah, and let him be your dread. Arats. Okay. And 29, 23, but when he seeth his children, the work of mine hands in the midst of him, they shall sanctify my name and sanctify the Holy One of Jacob and shall fear Arats, the God of Israel. So that's good stuff there. All right. And the cliffs, ravines, frightful, oppressive, Yahweh, the dread champion. All right. Like I said, we can't read all of this. Isaiah 10:33 we read, awful crash. So that's the Arats, and that is 1702. Yes, and now we have 784. We did that already. Okay, and we have another one here. Here's the Gur. I think it's 4032. Sometimes I write my sixes like zeros and my zeros like sixes. So we'll figure out this 4032. If I'm reading it right. Yes, fear. So this one here is Magor, and the regular Gur is here, which would be the Gur, and that's the verb. Sojourn, dwell, afraid, stranger, gather together. Okay, so that's why I had this first number down here and not this one. 332. What's 330? Abide, sojourn, lodging, storehouse, granary. Yeah, we're not going to get into that, but it comes from this word. So, and but the main one that we're looking at here is this Magor, and that's 332. Fear, terror. Look at it real quick. Fear. This is in Numbers. What's this Numbers here? Numbers. Moab was so afraid of the people. Oh, 1481. So afraid. So they have Gur. They have so afraid. Gur. It's really just means sojourn or dwell, and 6 times it's for afraid. So that's sometimes these things to fear, to be afraid, to be in awe, to stand in awe. To dread, to fear is to stand in awe, and that's good. But the most of the time, it's to sojourn, to dwell, and things like that. Moab was in distress because of the children of Israel. He saw them coming, poor, weary, to be grieved. And what did he do? He hired what's his name? Balaam. Let me see here. So this root, that's the judges are instructed not to fear the face of men. Okay. Deuteronomy 1:17, threats of a false prophet were not to turn the people from God. All right. So this is that Gur. All right. But I want to get into the Magor here. Megor. Here it is. Megor. Megorah. Fear, terror. This noun, horror, in the KB occurs less frequently than Yareh, Pakad, Magor, has the more extreme sense of terror in contrast to Yareh, which is more restrained. So this one here, Psalms 31, I got it right up here. Psalms 31:13. For I have heard the slander of many, fear was on every side. While they took counsel together against me, they devised to take away my life. And then there's 8 verses here for fear. Going out forth into the field, or walk by the way, for the sword of the enemy and fear is on every side. Jeremiah 20:4. I will make thee a terror to thyself. 20:10. For I heard the defaming of many, fear on every side. 46:5. Wherefore have I seen them dismayed and turned away back, and their mighty ones are beaten down and fled apace, and looked not back, for fear was round about, saith the Lord. And that's Magor. Fear is on every side. Okay, thou hast called as in a solemn day my terrors round about, the Lamentations, so that in the day of the Lord's anger none escapes nor remained. Those that I have swaddled and brought up hath mine enemy consumed. So Lamentations, you know what that's all about. After they came in, Babylon came in and destroyed Jerusalem. Jeremiah was lamenting, and we know what they did. Terror on every side. And that's the 332. And then we got a 41:27. I'm just throwing these words at you. And we'll get into something else. 41:27 is melt away. This is Moog, melt, dissolve, faint, melt away, consumed. I didn't look at this. This is one of the last ones I looked at here. But there's 17 verses for this. So let's, and that's the only word involved with this, I think. Let me just double check that. Yeah, that's the only word. Moog, melt. So great in power is the Lord that the earth melts when he touches the land. Nice. And the Lord God of hosts is he that touches the land, and it shall melt, and all that dwell therein shall mourn, and it shall rise up wholly like a flood, and shall be drowned as by the flood of Egypt. It shall melt. It's like a volcano or something, man. He touches the land, and it shall melt. Moog. I'm curious about this. Hold on a second. And it shall melt. Paul, let's see what Paul says. No, 9:5. The problem for the universal desolation is misery is beyond what secure people could think possible. Possibilities. It's 9:10. All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. Oh yeah, well, stand back. God of hosts is he that touches the land, and it shall melt as snow before the sun in its hottest influences, or as wax before the mighty fire. That's like the flax melting. He who can do this can do all that I have denounced against you, O Israel. And the rest of the verse, see, Amos 8:8. Amos 8:8. Shall not the land tremble for this, and everyone mourn that dwelleth therein? And it shall rise up wholly as a flood, and it shall be cast out and drowned as by the flood of Egypt. And that's the Amos 8:8. And that's the same thing as 9:5. Right? Yeah, look at that. So 8:8 and 9:5 are basically the same verse. And what's this tremble here? This tremble is 72:64. Ragaz. Well, that's new to me. I'm gonna have to write that one down. 72:64. Ragaz. TWOT 21:12. Ragaz. Tremble, move, shake. That's a good one. It's not like the terror, but it's a good. Probably have a bunch of good verses there. 41 verses with that ragaz in it. For everyone to mourn that dwelt therein, it shall rise up holy as the flood, be cast out and be drowned. Huh. So it has the same feeling as Amos 8:9, but it's not the same word as 9:5. 9:5, I'm curious. 9:5. So, oh, shall melt. Okay. The flood shall be cast out and drowned. So where's this 41:27? Moog is in 9:5, and over here they put this tremble. And but where's the melt? There's no melt here. It dries up. The holy as a flood, river, and it shall be cast out, garash, and drowned, shaka. All right, and the flood of Egypt. Look, as the flood of Egypt, they got 2975. They got Yehor. All right, and over here for the flood of Egypt, they have or, light. Get that. That's strange. Some things you run into, you got to take your time and go through these things. And this is Amos 9. Okay. Now, what was the other one? So, the mountains and hills tremble and shake at the, okay. Surge, I mean, tumult, totter, tremble. So we get the idea, it's toddle, trembling, and Nahum 1:5, the mountains quake at him, the hills melt, and the earth is burned at his presence, yea, the world and all that dwell therein. So we can do a whole thing on quaking, melting, and burning here as far as the earth goes. Quake, Ra'ash, that's the one. No, that's another one. Ra'ash. I'll put that in the quake and tremble. Yeah, oh, that's 7493. Oh, 7493. It's different than the other one. It's TWOT 2195. Okay, we'll put that in the tremble category. And there's the melt. There we go. Moog. And we can't get into all of that. All right, so, all right. Jeremiah 4:24, I saw the mountains, although they were quaking, and the hills rocked to and fro. Jeremiah 4:24. And then in Micah 1:4, and the mountains shall be molten under him, and the valleys shall be cleft as wax before the fire, and the waters that are poured down a deep space. A lot of melting and fire rolling here, and also in Psalms 97:5, the hills melted like wax at the presence of the Lord, of the whole earth. The hills melt like wax. Therefore, there must be a combination of ideas, trembling and melting. Yes, we can look at that. All of these, trembling and melting. Melting. One time in the Bible, the word melting. But we got TWOT 1223 and 20. Not even two words that I have written down already. And the other one was trembling. So I got 2112, yep. And 2195, nope. Okay. So, if we were to look at that, that's what we would do. But we're doing terror right now. God is a terrorist. Can also soften the earth with showers. Okay, so this word's good, but I'm looking more for the terror word, But I guess that would be a terror if you've seen things melting. However, there is a final day coming when the mountains shall flow with new wine, and the hills melt, shake, or wave with corn. Amos 9:13. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes, him that soweth the seed, and the mountains shall drop sweet wine, and the hills shall melt. So, if the plowman's overtaken the reaper, and the treader of the grapes, him that soweth the seed, that means the stuff's coming up quick. It's growing as fast as you can put it down. So, this days come, and overtake the reaper, shall be ready to tread on the heels of the reaper, who shall have a harvest so large that before he can gather it all, it shall be time to plow the ground and prepare for the seed for the next year's crop. So this is a time of abundance here. in Amos 9, believe it or not. So God will take away the reproach of famine from the mountains of Israel. And the treader of grapes, him that soweth the seed. So great shall their vintage be, that before the treaders of the grapes have finished their work, the seedman shall be sowing his seed again against next harvest season. So good. And then you could just tell that that's something good when you see this verse here. With the mountain shall drop sweet wine, and all the hills shall melt. Gotta look at that one. Drop sweet wine. But he doesn't talk about the hills melting here. I guess that means the water will be running, Bonds. I like to see what these guys say about these things here. And the mountain shall drop a sweet wine. Amos takes the words of Joel in order to identify their prophecies. It strengthens the image. For instead of saying the hills shall flow with milk, he says they shall melt, dissolve themselves. Such shall be the abundance and the superabundance of the blessing, that it shall be as though the hills dissolved themselves in the rich streams which they poured down. That's basically the picture I had in my head. So that's abundance there. And that's Barnes. Barnes is okay. Poole has some good stuff. When you look at Poole, Matthew Poole. And so let me get this another word here. What was I? 1156. And then we got 1204. 1204. All right. I know I'm going real quick here, but there's a lot to cover. Ba'ath is afraid, terrified, affrighted, trouble. 16 verses for this 265, TWOT 265. And to be overtaken by sudden terror, to terrify, terror, dismay, terrors, alarms occasioned by God. I told you, God's a terrorist. Half of the occurrences are in poetry. 2 synonyms are pakad, we got that, hatat, we got that, to be filled with terror. Ba'at is the closest to hatat. So these are the main ones, pakad, hatat. Let me see, tested to make afraid. Though these verses these verses may be the occasion of terror, it is primarily Yahweh that strikes the terror. Yeah, you just read these verses here; they'll straighten you out. They'll tell you what he's talking about here. 1 Samuel 16:14. But the spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. And that's Ba'ath. And Saul's servant said unto him, Behold, now an evil spirit from the God troubleth thee. When the waves of death compassed me, the floods of ungodly men made me afraid. 2 Samuel 22:5. David could not go before it to inquire of God, for he was afraid, because the sword of the angel of the Lord. What's that in context there? When confronted with the sword-carrying angel, all right, Saul was terrified too. And Esther. And Esther said, the adversary and the enemy is this wicked Haman. Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. So he built the gallows for Mordecai, and they wound up hanging him on it. Haman. Let darkness and the shadow of death stain it. Let a cloud dwell upon it. Let the blackness of the day terrify it. This is Job talking about his day, his birthday. Then thou scarest me with dreams and terrifies me through visions. What's the scarest me? Scarest is, that's the katat. We looked at that already. All right, that's the TWOT 784. So you katat me with dreams and you terrify me. Katat and Ba'ath. Let him take away his rod from me, and let not his fear Imam, we just looked at. Let not his fear terrify me. So it's Ema Ba'ath. Ema Ba'ath, man. Make you afraid, and his dread shall not his excellency make you afraid, and his dread, pakad, fall upon you. All of these synonymous words that run together. Withdraw thine hand far from me, and let not thy dread make me afraid. Trouble and anguish. What's trouble? Tsar, the enemy, adversary, trouble and anguish. Metsuka, distress, anguish, shall make him afraid. Ba'ath. About terrors. I don't know. I think we looked at this one already. Yeah, terrors shall make him afraid. Terrors, balaha. One of the first ones we looked at, but I don't think we did this particular number, 1091 and 1089. Yeah, because we looked at 926. Yeah, Bahal. But I don't think we looked at this one, 1091 and 1089. They're connected. 247. Yeah, okay, trouble, terror, destruction. Ezra 4:4. Then the people of the land weakened the hands of the people of Judah and troubled them in building. Ezra 4:4. Okay. That's on my list, but whoops, I just okay. Okay. The coming of God via the angel of Gabriel strikes terror in the heart of Daniel, and this devout servant falls to his face. In Daniel 8:7. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid, fell on my face. But he said unto me, understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. First, Daniel couldn't understand, but then the angel told him to understand. So he did understand in the end there. But he knew it was for the latter days, which is either today or in between the testaments, and which is a picture. In between the testaments is a picture of what's happening today. Anyway, okay. This experience is helpful in understanding the background against which Job makes his request. That God not intimidate him with the power, his power and dread. The wicked have every reason to be terrified because they stretch forth their hand against God. Job 15:24. Trouble and anguish shall make him afraid. Okay, yeah, we read that. So, I am delving into these TWOTs a little bit, but just to get some context here. And there's two more, 7460. I just looked at these. I think these are the last two that I looked at. 7460 is Ra'ad, tremble, to shudder more or less violently, to tremble, to quake. TWOT 2184, but all we got to do is read these 3 or 4 verses and we'll be there, So let me just read the 3 or 4 verses, but it's TWOT 2184 in case you're taking notes. And oh wait, there are yeah, okay, let me look at this because the Dukes of Edom shall be amazed. And that's Baal. Okay. And the mighty man trembling here, 7461. So here's the other one. So 7460 and 7461. All right. So let me get that out. And we'll get this out. And 7461, Ra'ad. That's why there was those other verses there. And there's 6 verses here. Trembling, fear, fearfulness. All right. And let me read this here. Ra'ad and its derivatives occur only 9 times. Cognate evidence and context both support meanings such as tremble or fear. The cow which is the type of verb, describes the earth's trembling before God, and that's Psalms 104:32. He looketh on the earth and it trembleth. He touches the hills and they smoke. So trembling and smoke. In the hip, without any clear causative meaning, describes trembling under the threat of God's judgment in Ezra 10:9. Then all the men of Judah and Benjamin gathered themselves together unto Jerusalem within 3 days. It was the 9th month, on the 20th day of the month, and all the people sat in the street of the house trembling. Why? Because of this matter, and for the great rain. They're like, oh man, we've seen this before. The great rain. I'd be afraid of that too. Ra'ad. And Daniel's trembling before a vision, and that's in Daniel 10:11. And he said unto me, O Daniel, a man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak unto thee, and stand upright, for unto thee am I now sent. And when he had spoken this word to me, I stood trembling, because I understood. Well, that's enough to scare you. Tremble. And then this other part here is the noun, masculine, feminine. It could be the dukes of Edom, mighty men of Moab, trembling shall take hold upon them, and all the inhabitants of Canaan shall melt away. What's that melt away? Melt away, 41:27. Moog. That's what we just looked at that. All of these synonymous words, they go together in these verses. They all mean something. And I'm sure if you look up the gematria on a lot of these things, it would probably blow your mind too. Fear came upon me and trembling, which made all my bones to shake. Trembling, which made all my bones to shake. Pakad, look at that. So you got trembling, you got the ra'ad, and the pakad. Psalms 2:11. Serve the Lord with fear, yareh, yerah, and rejoice with trembling. Fear take hold upon them there, and pain as of a woman in travail. Psalms 48:6. You'd have to look at that in context to see what it's talking about. And this one too, Psalms 55:5. Fearfulness, yareh, yerah, whatever it is, and trembling will come upon me, and horror hath overwhelmed me. Palatsuth, horror, 1778. It's not on my list. 1778. It's not on my list, but it is now. 64:27. TWOT 1778. So I put that down there. And 64:26, Palats, tremble. 26. I put it down there. Come upon horror has overwhelmed me. 33:14, the sinners in Zion are afraid. Pakad. Okay. And fearfulness has surprised the hypocrites. Kanef. Hypocrite, godless, profane, hypocrite, irreligious. First time I'm running across this one. Kanef. It comes from kanef, which means to pollute or defile, to be profaned. TWOT 696. I'd love to see a couple of these verses. 26:11. Oh, yeah, look at that. Oh, 26:11. So are the paths of all that forget God, and the hypocrites' hope shall perish. I didn't know this verse, this word was in here so many times. We'll have to look at that up some other time. Hypocrites. Good. There's a lot more words, hypocrite words in the Old Testament than there is in the New Testament. Surprise the hypocrites. Who among us shall dwell with devouring fire? Devouring. Akal. Who among us shall dwell with everlasting burnings? Olam. Everlasting. Right? Yeah, Olam. You know what everlasting is? It's like all the way that way and all the way that way. It's forever. So we can do that. The fire when the fire hits us, it purifies us. When the fire hits the vessels of wrath, they burn. And we can dwell with the everlasting burnings because, because it's not everlasting. All right. So that's that. That's the 2184. All right. And I think there's one more. And I got 6920. One more. Let's do this. And then we'll see what we're going to take this. Oh, 6920. 6920. This is the burning egg. Okay. I don't know why I put this down here. 6920 and 6919. That's kindled. I don't know why I put it here. Kadak is the kindle to burn. The kindle. Probably a couple of good verses that have the fear words in it and the terror words in it, connected with this kadak, the kindle and burning, and the kadakas, the burning egg, burning ague, the fever. 1987. 1987. So let me read them real quick here and see what kind of fear and terror words in here. I will do this unto you. I will even appoint over you terror. Okay. Consumption, the burning ague. I still don't know what this word is. Ague. Translation of fever. Okay. Of the Hebrew word kadath, meaning kindling, an inflammatory or burning fever. In Deuteronomy 28:22, the word is rendered fever. So it's some kind of fever. Okay. So fever. So, okay, when you see this, I don't know how to pronounce it, agu, but it's karak, karakath. It's a fever. So, but the terror here, I will appoint you to terror, the 928. That's the bihala. Consumption we didn't look at, but shekafeth, 2 times in the Bible. Consumption, wasting disease, or wasting disease of the lungs. 7829. 7829. So it's in both of these verses, the same 2 verses. You got this, the consumption. Okay. Consumption, the burning, agu, that shall consume thine eyes, the eyes, and cause sorrow of heart, and you shall sow your seed in vain, for your enemy shall eat it. And the Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, with a fever, and with an inflammation. Dalaketh, inflammation, 1 time in the Bible, dalaketh. To pursue, kindle, chase, to burn, to hotly pursue, inflammation, and with extreme burning. Karkur, so it's like charcoal. Charkur, extreme burning, extreme heat, violent heat, fever. A fever. Be burned, be charred, parched, violent heat. Okay. 2787 is karar, to burn, dry, angry, kindle. Charred, that's it, right? He's charred up. A lot of our English words come from this stuff here. Extreme burning with the sword, with the blasting, with the mildew, they shall pursue thee until thou perish. Oh, that's Deuteronomy. Oh, these are the 2 sister chapters, or Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy 28, talking about the blessings and the cursings. The beginning of the chapter talks about the blessings, and the end of the chapter, of course, talks about the cursings. This will happen if you don't obey me. So you just read Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy 28, and it's like a carbon copy. Okay. Deuteronomy 32:22, for a fire is kindled in my anger, and shall burn in the lowest hell, and shall consume the earth with her increase, and set on fire the foundations of the mountains. Tell me God's not a terrorist. Behold, all ye that kindle a fire, that compass yourselves with sparks, walk in the light of your fire and in the sparks that you have kindled. This shall you have of mine hand, you shall lie down in sorrow. So all of your sparking and lighting is not going to mean anything. And when the melting fire burneth, the fire causes the waters to boil, to make thy name known to thine adversaries, that the nations may tremble at thy presence. So when you put fire under the water, what happens? It boils up, it boils. So that's what they do, and everybody was afraid of Israel. Tremble, the nations will tremble. Ragaz, that's the last one I just looked up. Ragaz, so that's on our list. And at thy presence, make thy name known. Okay, and Jeremiah 15:14, and I will make thee to pass with thine enemies into the land which thou knowest not, for a fire is kindled in mine anger, which shall burn upon you. So in one verse in Isaiah, he's saying all the adversaries will be afraid of you, and in Jeremiah 15, he's saying, I'm going to burn you up. So it doesn't matter. And thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies. The ones that were afraid of you, that trembled at your presence back in Isaiah, are now you're gonna cause them to serve. You're gonna serve them in the land which thou knowest not, for you have kindled the fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. And we covered anger last week. That's the anger of the Lord. It's a masculine noun. Anger. That's the nostrils. When the nostrils flare, nostrils of the face, kindle the fire. That's what got me onto this terror thing here. And the other one, what was the other one? There was one more, I think. Yeah, 7493. We just came across this one. 7493. That's trembled. That's 2195. Shake, tremble. Ra'ash, shake, tremble. So I'm looking at this for the first time here. The earth trembled. It is 30 verses. So that's TWOT 2195. Quaking, rattling. So you get the idea. Fearsome creatures, crocodile in the passage. Clubs are passed up. The crocodiles are that. So the earth shook and trembled. The foundations of heaven moved and shook because he was wroth. 2 Samuel 22:8. The earth trembled and the heavens dropped. The clouds also dropped water. Judges 5. And talking about Leviathan, I guess, canst thou make him afraid as a grasshopper? The glory of his nostrils is terrible. The glory of his nostrils. Nakar, nostril, snorting. Snorting. Glory of his nostrils. It's breathing fire. Nostrils are terrible. The earth shook and trembled. I'm sorry, let's look at these words here. Shook, ga'ash, shake, tremble. It's not on my list, but it could be. Shook and trembled. That's the shaking and the trembling. Let me just put it in the shaking and trembling page here, 1607. 1607. That'll go into shaking and trembling, 371. If we ever get into that, which we are, we're doing everything. We're going to do every word in the Bible, one word at a time, until we get it all. Shake with the swelling thereof. He has made the earth to tremble. Thou hast broken it. Heal the breaches of it thereof. The earth shook. The heavens dropped at the presence, the face of God. Prosopon. In the Greek, it's panim, before the face. Panim. The presence of Israel. So I have there's over 30 verses here, but you get the gist of this. Shaking and trembling. Haggai 2:21. speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Judah, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth. And you can get some good cross references from this about shaking and trembling. Whew, look at all of that. Let me look in here. There's something in the New Testament, right? Shake and tremble. Let's see what we got here in the New Testament with shaking and trembling. Yeah, Hebrews 12:26, whose voice then shook the earth, but now he hath promised, saying, Yet once more I shake not the earth only, but also the heavens. So not only the ruled, but the ruling class. And this word, yet once more, signifieth the removing of those things that are shaken, as of things that are made, that those things which cannot be shaken may remain. And it's talking about the vials here. The seventh angel poured out his vial into the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne, saying, It is done. And there were voices and thunders and lightnings, and there was great earthquake, such as not since men were upon the earth, so mighty an earthquake, and so great. And the great city was divided into three parts, and the cities of the nations fell, and great Babylon came in remembrance before the God, to give unto her the cup of wine and the fierceness of his wrath, shaking and trembling. Good stuff. And this, let's do 5400. Fearful sights. Luke 21:11, and great earthquakes shall be, as long as we're on earthquakes here and shaking, shall be in diverse places, and famines and pestilences and fearful sights, and great signs shall be from heaven. Fearful. Phobitron. It's not in the TDNT, but it's part of the phobeo, which is so this fearful sight, something that strikes terror. And we know about Luke 21. We know what that's all about. It's the end of time. It's an end of time eschatological chapter. So 5400 comes from 5399, which is phobeo. 5399, 5400, 5399. And there's 90 verses here, and it's phobeo. It means to fear, to be afraid, to put to flight by terrifying. And you look at all the synonyms over here. I got all of these down here, and we're going to look at these now. These are the Greek words, which we don't usually get to. By the time I do all the Hebrew stuff, we don't have time for the Greek stuff. But the Bible is written in Hebrew and Greek, so we have to cover the Greek also. But this is a big word here, this phobeo, to be afraid, and it covers a lot of context, not just God shaking the earth and making everybody afraid. So 5399, 5400, 5401, 5401, and this is phobos, and that's fear, terror. And the Theological Dictionary is volume 9, and it starts on page 189. And there's a lot of stuff on here. I was just looking at it tonight. Actually, for the first time, I thumbed through this word in the Theological Dictionary, believe it or not. It's the first time I looked at it in the Theological Dictionary. So his disciples saw him walking on the sea. They were troubled. It is a phantasm. They cried out for fear. Phobos. And it's 44 some odd verses. It's in the Bible. And then the other one would be 50. Why do I have 2 Corinthians 5:11? I got that in my margin here. 2 Corinthians 5:11. There we go. That's one of the terror verses here. Knowing therefore the terror of the Lord, we persuade men, but we are made manifest unto God, and I trust also are made manifest in your consciousness. So just telling them there's a fear of the Lord. All right, I put that in the margin. And 5400, 5399, and 5401. And then there's a 5398. 5398. And this is certain 1027, but a certain fearful looking for of judgment and fiery indignation, which shall devour the adversaries. He that despised Moses' law without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. How much more sore punishment suppose ye shall he be thought worthy, who hath trodden underfoot the Son of Man, and hath counted the blood of the covenant, wherewith he was sanctified, an unholy thing, and hath done despite unto the Spirit of grace. You're talking about the crucifixion, who thinks it's nothing, you know? For we know of him that hath said, vengeance belongeth unto me, I will recompense, saith the Lord. And again, the Lord shall judge his people. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. And that's the fearful thing, is phobos. It's not in the theological dictionary, but it's down here. I put it on the side. Phobos, fearful, terrible thing. And Hebrews 12:21, and so terrible was the sight that Moses said, I exceedingly fear and quake. And that exceedingly fear is 1630. That's ekphobos. Ekphobos. Do I have that? 16. I should have it, yeah. Phobos. Potato. I didn't. I have to write it down then. Where am I going to fit it? I got no room here. 1630. I'm sure I have it somewhere, but I'm going to write it down here anyway. Ek. Phobos. O-S. Phobeo. I got Delios. I'm just looking at my notes here to see if I got this ekphobos. I guess not. Okay, I got ekpleso. Hey, so ekphobos is 1630. 1630, exceedingly fear. And what's the other one? Quake. And quake is entromos. Wow, I got to put this down here too. Exceedingly fear and quake. So let me get this out of here, Ekphobos. For he wist not what to say, for they were sore afraid. In Mark 9:6. What's that talking about? And there was a cloud that overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud saying, this is my beloved son, hear him. And suddenly when they had looked round about, they saw no man anymore save Jesus only. Oh, this is when they were with him, and they saw Moses, Elias, and Moses and Elias up on the mountain with Jesus. Say, but they were so afraid. Yeah, I'd be afraid too. So that's exceedingly ekphobos. Okay. And it's not in the theological dictionary, so I'm going to have to write it. I wrote it down. Here we got, and then we got this tremble here. This is entromos. Entromos. Tromos is trembling, quaking. 51, 56. Yeah, that's on my list. Okay. Saying, I am the God of thy fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. Then Moses trembled and durst not behold. He closed his eyes. He covered his eyes. Then he called for a light and sprang in and came trembling and fell down before Paul and Silas. So this is the guy that said, what must I do to be saved? Believe. Yeah, he was afraid. And then Hebrews 12:21 we read already, and that's 1790. And this 51:56 is, they went out quickly and fled from the sepulchre, for they trembled and were amazed. Neither said they anything to any man, for they were afraid. And this is when they came to the sepulchre. Where is he? He's not here. I'd be afraid too. They were amazed. 1611. Is that on my list? 1611. Let me see. 1611. Ecstasis. I should have it on my list. I'm going to put it on there anyway. 1611. So we'll put it up there. I'm sure I have it. I ran into it. 1611. I'll just put it there real quick. All right. And they were afraid. Phobeo. So they came to the sepulchre. It was empty. They didn't know what to do. 1 Corinthians 2. And I was with you in weakness and in fear and in much trembling. Much trembling. Tromos. Trembling is tromos. Tremo is tremble. 5141. I got that on my list too. Let me put it up here. 5141. Take this out of here for now. Fear and trembling. Whew, man. Weakness and fear and trembling. Okay. And his inward affection is more abundant toward you, whilst he remembereth the obedience of you all, how with fear and trembling you received him. 2 Corinthians 7:15. With fear, with phobos and trembling you received him. Ephesians 6:5. Servants, be obedient to them that are your masters according to the flesh, with fear, phobos and tromos. Phobos and tromos. And singleness of your heart as unto Christ. Philippians 2:12. Wherefore, my beloved, as you have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with phobos and tromos. Fear and trembling. And this word here, this would be the verb. That's to tremble. And I'm sure I have all of these. Yes, 1605. Yes, 4422. Yeah, we'll look at these. All at all these. But the woman fearing and trembling, fearing, phobeo, and trembling, knowing what was done in her, came and fell down before him and told him all the truth. So this is the one that had the demons came out of her, or the stench of the blood. He made the blood stop when she touched him, right? Yeah. He said, "Who touched me?" And he's standing there with thousands of people all around him. And his apostles looked at him and said, "What are you talking about? Who touched you? Everybody's touching you." She says, "No, I felt what's the word he used? Arete. I felt arete come out of me." But she came down and she was afraid, man. She fell down before him. She said, "Thank you, God. I was bleeding my whole life." And it just stopped. Luke 8:47. Yeah, it's the same thing. And the woman saw that she was not hid. She came trembling and falling down. She declared unto him, all the people, for what cause she had touched him, and how she was healed immediately. And trembling and astonished said, "Lord, what wilt thou have me to do?" And this is Paul when he was struck down on the Damascus road. He was trembling and astonished. Thambeo, to be astonished. Thambeo comes from thambos, to be amazed, to render immovable, amazement. I could write these down too. 2284, 2284, and 2285. Just put it out there for now. Astonished said, "Lord, what will you have me to do?" And the Lord said unto him, "Arise and go into the city, and it shall be told thee what thou must do." How am I going to do that? I'm blind. Somebody had to go take him by the hand. And 2 Peter 2:10. But chiefly them that walk after the flesh, and the lust of uncleanness, and despise government. Presumptuous are they, self-willed. They're not afraid to speak evil of dignities. They're not afraid. They don't tremble. They're arrogant. And these, another word here, we just looked at, I think, paradiddle. Astonishment. Yeah, okay. We looked at that. Astonishment, amazed. Look at it real quick. This is ecstasis. Oh, yeah, ecstasy. Ecstasis. Any casting down of a thing from its proper place or state. Displacement. A throwing of the mind out of its normal state. Whoops. Alienation of mind, whether such as makes a lunatic or that a man who by some sudden emotion is transported, as it were, out of himself. That's what we get this ecstatic state some people talk about. So that in this rapt condition, although he is awake, his mind is drawn off from all surrounding objects and wholly fixed on things divine, that he sees nothing but the forms and images lying within him, and things that he perceives with his bodily eyes and ears, reality shown him by God. So this is what he thinks, but it's not actually true. People go into an ecstatic. You can force yourself into any kind of state when you sit down and start praying and meditating, and you can get excited into some kind of amazed astonishment within yourself. And oh, God's talking to me. No, he's not. Okay, he fell into a trance. So Peter, that's what happened to him. He fell into a trance. In a trance, I saw a vision. Let me see. That's Peter talking about his vision of the sheep and the animals. God said, kill and eat. And he said, no, nothing common or unclean has ever touched my lips. And God says, don't call common and unclean what I have cleansed, speaking of the Gentiles. I was in a trance. So who's this? This one is Acts 22:17. Who's this talking here? This baptized, and he came in when I told him, come again to Jerusalem. And while I prayed in the temple, I was in a trance and saw him saying unto make haste and get quickly out of Jerusalem, for they will not receive their testimony here. So this is Paul talking about his vision with Christ. And these guys had visions. They had this trance, but nobody's having this stuff today. And 51, 56, 51, 41, we did that. Ekpleso, one more, 1605. Actually, there's a couple more. 1605, ekpleso, astonished at his doctrine, amazed, astonished. Who then can be saved? Ekpleso. Ek is out, and pleso, which means to smite. So you're like smacked in the face, to be astonished, to be struck with amazement. I got hit upside the head with a spiritual 2x4. I guess I was ekpleso. Astonished at the doctrine. They're surprised. They're astonished. Then the deputy, when he saw it was done, believed, being astonished at the doctrine of the Lord. So that's good. If it causes you to believe, this astonishment will cause you to believe. That's 1605. Then you got 4422. Mama Daddy. But you shall hear of wars and commotions. Be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. And we know what that is. Pateo, terrified, to be afraid, through that of causing to fly away. Pateo comes from pipto, which means to fall or descend from a higher place. And when it talks about the parapipto, the falling away of some, this is the word that they use, parapipto. It's not the apostasis, which is the apostasy. That's the falling away. That's the one that I don't think you come back from. But this parapipto is another fall away, but it's not as grievous as the apostasis. Pteomai is fly or flying, okay? Just telling you where it's coming from. Terrified to be fertile. But they were terrified and frightened and supposed that they had seen a spirit. Speaking of these guys who saw Jesus, frightened. Emphobos. Oh, that's another one. It's not in the book. That's why it's not showing up. Emphobos, 1719. Let me put it with, where's the other one I had with the ek? I'll just have to put it down here. 1719. Phobos. Yes, I'll write all these down when I do that theological dictionary. I put them in the margin in the book. They were terrified, Mateo, and frightened, and supposed that they had seen a spirit. So this is what's this one talking about? Why are you troubled? Why do you thoughts right now? Oh, this is when he appeared to them, and he after the resurrection. So this was a spirit. This is the pneuma, not the other one, which was the phantasm that they saw walking on the water. And as they spake, just Jesus himself stood in the midst of them and said, "Peace be unto you." So I heard somebody talking the other day. He says, "Why did Jesus why did they have to roll the stone away from the sepulcher?" Well, he just several times he appeared to them just walking through the wall. He just appeared. So why did he have to? He did it to show them who he was. That's why. He could have just got out of the tomb without rolling the stone away, but then there would have been something to deny about that. Or they never put him in. But when you see it rolled away, he did it for their benefit, because he didn't have to roll the stone away. He could have come out of there without rolling the stone away. Let me see if there's another word here. 1630, 20. Yeah, we saw that. But there was some verses here that I wanted to get at. What time is it? Oh man, it's 8 o'clock. Whew. Anger of the Lord. So we'll have to come back to these. There's a whole bunch of stuff here. Like I said, we looked at a lot of these words, probably most of them. Yeah. Okay. And this anger of the Lord, I wanted to look at. And the Lord's anger, that's from last week. Actually, it was left over. And we could probably look at that some other time. And then we looked at these words: fear, trembling, reverence, fearing God. A lot of good verses here. We'd have to get into these next week too. We looked at a lot of, we looked at a few of these. God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. I don't think I looked at this yet. 11, where is it on my list? Oh, it's up there. That's why I passed over it. 1167 and 1169. Look at it real quick here. Delia, timidity, fear. So he hasn't given us that spirit. Fearful, 1169 is Delios. And this other one is Eulabia. All right, we'll get into that in a second, but that's a different word here. Just want to do these two right here. He has not given us the spirit of timidity, Delia, timidity. Okay. And also this, why are you fearful, O ye of little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and they were calm. When he was in the boat with them, and they thought they were going to capsize, and he went against nature, and he just said, shh, and the wind stopped. How is it that you have no faith? And Revelation 21:8, but the fearful and the unbelieving and the abominable, the murderers, the whoremongers, the sorcerers, the idolaters, liars, they shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. We're all going to die once. You don't want to die twice. 1169. And this 21:24, Eulabia. That's Eulabia, actually. And then 20 comes from Eulabes, which means devout. which is from lambano, which means to receive or to take with the hand. So it's a well taking or taking well. It means devout or godly fear. So who in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplications with strong cryings and tears unto him that was able to save him from death, and was heard in that he feared. So this is like a reverential fear, eulabia, godly fear. Godly fear. Do I have synonyms on this one? Godly fear. Eulabia, what's the, oh yeah, so the 3 of these. Okay, eulabia. And let me just look at that real quick again. So this 1167 is always used in a bad sense. That's the Dalia. 2124, the eulabia, which is what we're looking at, is usually used in a good sense, and that phobeo is used in a good or a bad sense. So that's the phoberos. So, and then wherefore we receiving a kingdom which cannot be moved, let us have grace, whereby we may serve God acceptably with reverence and godly fear. Reverence. Aidos, shamefacedness, 127. It's got to be from Idos, right? Shamefacedness, reverence. Ido, with downcast eyes. So, Aidos, downcast eyes, shamefacedness. Man, we could be here all night. Aidos, shamefacedness, aiskene, shame, dishonesty. Okay, that's different. And trope is shame, okay? And this sophronos fusone is sobriety. All right, some more things we gotta look at. But that's the fear that I was looking at there. Godly fear. What was the other one? There was another one, 1169 we looked at? Right, yeah, we looked at that already. 1169. Yes. So there was a bunch of stuff here that I wanted to get to, but we're going to have to wait for another day, next week maybe. Here, and all of this. Oh man, look at all these good verses here. And then the trembling, 1605, 44. We did this, 1719. We did that. All right. We looked at this 207, 247. Yeah, I just threw a couple of these up here. 1204. That's TWOT 265. We looked at that, yes. Pakad, yes, we looked at that. And this, okay. So, thank you, God. Once again, I'm just overwhelmed with this. The terror, the fear, the shaking, trembling, and the fear and the anger. God, when we disobey, he's going to shake it, man. And he's going to shake it soon. He's going to shake heaven and earth. So we thank you, God, for all of this. We love you, all the praise, glory, and honor. And we do everything in Jesus' name. Amen. So that time flies, man, when you're having fun. You guys chatting over here. What do you got? Evening all. You say hello. Good. Okay. 99, yes. We know what 99 means. 99 means A-M. Amen. Thank you, God.